Joanne, and here I am here with my co-host Sujun on our podcast Following Through. This is our episode 8, and essentially our podcast is about things we want to do on a weekly basis and just talking about our goals for the following week. So, hello Sujun, how are you doing?
I'm well. Thank you, Joanne. How about you?
It's good. I'm excited to talk about what we were working on for the past week and our next week's goals. Um, I always forget who starts first,
You
but
started first last, so I would like to invite you to go first.
okay, awesome, great. All right, so last week, I believe I talked about a little bit about my working out and also like finishing up or starting a book called Atomic Habits. So I'll follow through on that.
That's right.
The working out part, so I've gotten to the point where I do my cardio. I've incorporated my compound exercise I was talking about last week, which are just like 5 different movements that's supposed to help strength training and different muscles. And then I wanted to incorporate a little bit more flexibility and some endurance, and yoga was the thing I wanted to focus on. But, not all goals are achieved, so this one definitely fell flat. I don't know what it is, but yoga is just really mentally challenging. And to do that for an hour, to go through these poses, it's hard to get that quick satisfaction that you get with weightlifting or running. Like, as you're weightlifting or running, you have that immediate like dopamine surge, or you feel like you're pumping iron, and that aggression just kind of like you're like,
Yes.
yeah, I'm working out, and you feel it immediately. Whereas yoga, it's the opposite effect of you have to really control your mind and focus on these uncomfortable poses to increase your flexibility. So yeah, that was tough. I was not able to incorporate that at all, really. I mean, I would do a few stretches here and there, but that was about it. So, and I'll talk a little bit more about, I think for next week, I'm probably going to just focus on the stretches that I do and maybe expand on that.
Yeah, stretches are good too. I know that there's a scientific paper a while ago that I read that people who don't stretch have their connective tissue kind of just stop being so supple, and they could measure it. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, and ever since I was young, I was never good at flexibility. So I definitely think I need a lot of stretching because it hasn't really been a big part of my life.
So I know that in the past you do yoga with Adrian. Are you still doing that, or okay?
No, not so much. So I focus now just on running for at least a mile, and then and I do some kind of cardio every day, either running or swimming, and then every other day or every like second or third day I'll do the strength training just to get my muscles up, and I kind of focus on my rotator cuffs because I had a rotator cuff injury. So that's been my routine. I'm able to maintain it. I think right now I'm kind of at a maintaining phase of these habits that I've newly formed. So I'm gonna make sure that doesn't fall through, and then I'll keep an eye out on kind of expanding my stretching routine that I do like every morning when I wake up.
Yeah, nice, yeah.
Yeah.
Inspired by your suggestion last week,
Yes.
I looked up some compound exercise and on YouTube, that is, and I did a couple of them. It feels pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, how'd you feel? Did you feel like it took a lot of your time, or did it feel hard? Like, were you doing it with weights?
Not really. Yeah, I did some light weights. The session that I looked for were only 20-30 minute long, so it was the hardest part was getting started, but after I started, well, could play it without doing it sometimes, but after I get started, I'm actually following the exercises. Once I get started, it's pretty easy to get through after that. It feels great.
Yeah, and that's the thing about some of these strength training exercises. Like, you don't have to like do it like that long. It's just like 2 or 3 reps, just a little bit here and there makes a big difference, and you can feel it, which is kind of cool to have that feedback.
Yeah, for sure. Nice.
Yeah. And I'll talk about my book, but I want to hear about your stuff too. So I'm gonna throw this back to you.
All
How was
right.
your past week?
Last week was nice. I think I made a lot of progress. The last week I told you that I would try to write a poem. And
Right.
before that, yeah, I was procrastinating, hopefully productively. I was reading who are the famous poets in our time today, and found out about Mary Oliver. She was a Pulitzer Award winning poet, and read up some of her poems and gave me some inspiration. So she wrote a lot about nature and the world. So I thought, maybe that's a good theme, because last week you asked me if I have a theme.
Right.
I thought I should start with the theme, and nature, the world sounds like a good one. And I stumbled upon Amanda Gorman. If you remember,
Yes.
during Biden's inaugural event, she recited her poem.
Yes.
Wow, what an amazing woman, young woman.
Yeah. It's yeah, I remember being so in awe with her. I think everybody was during that whole inauguration ceremony. Like she was the highlight. And I remember looking into her background a little bit. I think she had like issues with pronunciating, I think it was her R's or S's, which you can start kind of hearing. And I think that was like one of her challenges for being like, what do you call it? Like a
Speech.
I forget what you call
You're
those
right.
people,
You're right.
who speak.
I read about.
Mhm.
I don't know what they're called, but I looked into her story as well, and yeah, you're right. And she used poem to wrote used to use she used to write poems to try to help her think, and she would get nervous talking or reading her poem in front of the class.
Right.
She started writing poems when she was 10, by the way. High achiever. And so she eventually became really frustrated that she couldn't speak her voice, even though she could write it on paper. Yeah, and she tried to work on it, and obviously overcame a lot of things. Is that what you were?
Yes, I think
for?
yeah, I think we're reading some similar things. Specifically it was her pronunciations for R that was difficult for her.
I mean, pronunciation is generally tough for me. So.
Same. I'm pretty sure I probably have like mild dyslexia. I think like one day I was like, I'm pretty sure I have this, and I took a test and I was like, okay, it says maybe you have dyslexia. I'm not really sure.
Really?
Yeah. So I was like, I probably do. Whatever. It doesn't change anything, but I admire Amanda Gorman with how she's able to kind of overcome these like speech impediments, and yeah, in her poetry is just very, very strong and
very emotional, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, amazing. And another thing that stood out to me in some of the YouTube videos that I've watched was that she said poem is inherently political. I mean, I didn't think about it that way. And to me, poem is sort of like a really exclusive club. But she argues that apparently not. It is often the language that all people from all class, all sector of society could use. Apparently, it is accessible. So that is really eye-opening to me, and I became aware of poetry even more than last year. Yeah. As I mentioned, this is a kind of a new discovery for me, and I think I see her point now, because anyone can write it.
Right. It reminds me of those images of like people having open mic nights when we were able to gather together in the past, where people would just recite their poems, and I thought that was really strong. Like it's a voice, a way for people to really voice their opinions and just their emotions. But Sujun, so is this your debut?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I actually was going to shy away from writing it, but then I decided to really take the challenge on. So here is my first poem, The History of Time. Title is Standing on the Shoulders of Giants. Whether, whether I am aware of it, whether I am resistant of it, my existence today comes from the generations before me. Culture is ingrained in me. Language powers my thoughts, which I deemed mine, but are they? Can be rather complex. It is not separable in our society. I stand on the shoulders of giants. I am the beneficiary of the wisdom that came before me. I am the carrier of the now. I am no doubt carrying the now to the future. I stand on the shoulders of giants, and you shall stand on mine. The end.
Nice. I like it. That was really, really good.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. No, very powerful. I like it.
Thanks. And I got the idea from my day job. At my job, I manage intellectual property portfolio, and we often say that the patents that we file for, the inventions that inventors create, are standing on the shoulders of giants. That kind of sort of gave me the idea of just build on that, and something that I'm familiar with. And there you go, my first poem in my whole life.
I like it.
Moment.
And I like the ending where, throughout the poem, it's like, you're being respectful, you're trying to like appreciate the people before you, but then in the end, it's like, you will also appreciate me because I come before you as well. And I was like, oh, that's a nice little twist there.
Thank you for that. Oh, that's really nice hearing that from you. Thank you, Joanne.
Yeah, and send it to me so I can put it in our podcast notes. So people can
shall.
Read. Yeah. So, how are you gonna continue thinking about this, or is this kind of like a one-time thing? I tried it. I'll do it again when I feel like it.
Well, it would be the latter, I would say. I think it's very, to me, feel great having completed one poem.
Yeah.
Not sure if I have more of that kind of fire to keep writing, but I think that it is something that, since I've done it before, when there's time, maybe when I'm doing my daily walk, I should think about it. And if I have new poems, I will share with you.
That's awesome. Yeah, thank you for that. That was really good. That was very different. You don't hear a lot of people, at least around me, who are like, hey, let me cite you a poem.
Yeah, sort of this thing that, to me previously, it's a thing that we study at school. It's like boring, like what is the point of it? But that's why it was so amazing to see Amanda Gorman so passionate about poetry, and way she does it is so compelling, which makes me want to do what she does. Awesome.
So what are your goals for next week? Let's talk about future upcoming weeks. That does, I will say, I do look forward to doing our podcast, but it comes very quickly. Like a week is not long.
Yeah, absolutely. Which makes it, even more important for us to define goal properly, so
Right.
that it is the right size for the week. And I think in the last few episodes, there were not so successful goal achieving week. But when I broke it down to a smaller goal, and Joanne, thanks to you, sometimes you make me be more specific on my goal. Like, for example, the 3 runs a week, and I think last week you asked me if I were going to write a poem, and so having you questioning the goals that I set for the week really helps. So I hope I can do that for you. No, it's just it's just defining the right amount.
Right.
It's already an art.
Yeah, and it definitely is the having that accountability because you and I, we're both talking, we're both keeping an eye on our declared goals, so it definitely helps.
Um, so
So
for the next
yeah,
week, for the next week, I like to read. Going back to reading.
okay.
Yeah. I picked up a Rome history book.
Oh, that sounds dense.
Yeah, but again, back to defining the right size goal. I just want to read one chapter.
That's realistic, honestly. I should probably specify chapters as well. Yeah.
Additionally, happy to report that I finished Henry Ford's autobiography.
Okay. That's something that we talked about maybe 2-3 episodes ago. And
A while ago, yeah.
what was your
Yeah, I finished it.
conclusion after reading it?
He was a smart man, and a lot of things that he has figured out, and we are now trying to relearn it. So my question is, why didn't we just learn from him? Speaking of standing on shoulders of giants.
Right. I guess now it's a matter of can we learn from them and actually not make the same mistakes, but
Not right.
yeah.
Right.
It's, as they always say, history repeats itself, but I think these books are valuable because I don't want to make the same mistakes, and why not just learn from other people's mistakes?
That's right, and I guarantee you, we are gonna make our own mistakes, no matter how many books we read.
Right, exactly. And going with the same theme, I'm also gonna focus on finishing the book that I picked up, Atomic Habits. Maybe not finishing. That's a bold statement. Not finishing, but read a few chapters. I want to get to at least half of it. I think I'm up to like chapter 3 or 4. So half the book is my goal.
Nice. How do you enjoy it so far?
It's good. It definitely is jiving with where I am right now with what I want to do. Like, because we talk about these podcasts and, our goals and habits, it really synergizes well because, I'll mention a few things that I've already, learned.
Right.
They talk about just the power of compound habits, or like, it's essentially, they have this statement where like habits are a compound interest of self-improvement. So instead of focusing on outcomes, you want to focus on your systems or your habits. And then even deeper than that, they're actually saying that your habits are your identity as well. So it's easier if you think about it that way. So instead of someone saying like, oh, I want to quit smoking, or I want to clean my room, those are quick outcomes that don't last. Like you may have a jolt of energy and clean your room, or just for a few days not smoke, but then it's not going to last. But if you change your identity to like, I'm not a smoker, or I'm an athlete, or I don't know, like changing your identity and approaching it that way, you build an inherent habit or a system, like an intrinsic motivation that will last longer. Yeah. So I think that was good. Yeah, because I know we on this podcast we do talk about goals, and I think it's kind of interesting to think about. Okay, what about the habits that lead up to like any self-improvement goals? And those are obviously a little bit harder to weekly talk about because it's just a small habit here and there that builds up over time until there actually is a huge change.
Yeah.
That was good.
Makes me think about the system. We mentioned system.
Yes.
So besides goal setting, besides achieving goals every week, a habit and the system there's underlying the whole week.
Yeah.
Like the daily activities. That's something to think about. If I can think about myself as a poet, then I can write more poem.
Right, exactly. It reminds me of I remember I had a conversation. I don't know why this conversation stuck. I think you're in grad school or something, and we're talking about cleaning our houses, and you're like, oh, I just like realized if I just clean a little bit here and there, I don't have to have this day of cleaning. And I was like, that is so true.
Sounds like me.
Yeah, it was like this huge revelation. And I don't know, that conversation just stuck with me.
Oh, interesting. Oh, I
Yeah.
miss our time together, Joanne.
I know, that's where, I don't know if that conversation stuck with me because I was so entertained by how, like, I don't know, enlightened he felt with cleaning. Or if it was like, something so profound. I don't know. It may have been a mixture of that.
Either way, I'm honored. How about you, Joanne? What is your goal? Oh, next week you said you want to read some chapters.
Yeah, so I think that, and then, I mean, my secondary goal right now, I am just like super focused on finishing up studying on the stock thing.
Yeah.
So, that's probably one of the reasons I've been sleeping late. I just been like just reading and listening to pods just until I get it. It's like right now I'm at this phase where I want to figure out the puzzle. And it's frustrating and making me obsessed that I don't know the landmark of or like the overall gist of things. So I'm still like in the forest. I'm still kind of like lost and getting information here and there, but I'm not seeing the entire the land yet. So I am still focusing on that. But
I see.
yeah.
That's important skill to learn, important knowledge to have.
Financial freedom is my goal.
Yes. Fabulous. That's a great long-term goal.
Right?
Yes.
Yes. But yeah, so I'll update you guys on that. There's not really much to. It's hard to talk about stocks and my progress because it's not a.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
As in, you're still exploring right now, and you are trying to figure out what I guess lay of the land is, right? And then I
Yes.
think that you are, once you are about to get to the next step, things will click, and then you will be at the next step, and then you can explain to us.
Yes,
Do.
exactly. I think we've all been in that situation, especially like, I think about like my sister when she had to be writing her thesis. Like in the beginning, it's so confusing. You don't know what to write, but the more you read, all of a sudden you'll be at a level where you can see above all the information and then form your own thesis. And I'm just waiting for that moment to happen.
Yeah.
But it
Keep
does.
at it.
Yeah, thank you. And it does correlate with habits too, because right now it's all about building your system, about how to approach it. So that's why I think it's taking a little bit longer. I mean, I can easily just jump into stocks and just try it out, but I'm realizing there's a bigger system that I need to follow.
Yeah.
But yeah, no further ado.
Wonderful.
Let's until this podcast becomes way too long, let me jump into the random question of the day. I think it is my turn.
Yes, Joanne.
Yeah.
Hit me with a question.
I've already asked you this, but this is like one of my favorite questions to ask people when I'm having a deep conversation with them. Is if you had all the money and all the talent in the world, what would you do, or what would you be?
Very interesting.
Yeah.
I love that question. I love fantasizing that I have all the money and all the time in the world and can do anything I want.
Yeah.
I will be traveling of all of the world to find scientific questions to answer.
Okay.
Yes, that will be me.
So you're not too far off from, you are a scientist, so you're not too far off from that.
Well, yes, I am a scientist, but a little restricted. So, yeah, definitely, I'm thankful that I am a scientist. I wanted to be a scientist, and I now am a scientist. But I do have so many other questions that I wish to answer.
Right.
But of course, with as with a lot of other activities, pursuing scientific what's the word I'm thinking about? So
Discovery,
trying to figure out, the discovery. You're right. That requires funding as well. That requires time,
money, right?
money, and in today's world, you need to get funding, you need to present to the funder why they need to put money in a particular question. Why is it a pressing question that needs to fund today? Because there are so many things that need funding, so many questions that need to be asked and answered. Exactly. So if I have the freedom, I would go all over the world and not be restricted by any purpose or any kind of specific aims that people write in their grant applications.
Right.
And just follow my intuition and follow my curiosity. Most likely I'll be in nature, hopefully safely, because I ultimately, as we have also discussed in the podcast before, I won't fare really well in the nature all on my own. So,
but if you have all the unlimited amount of money, then somehow you'll make it
exactly
a comfortable trip, right?
Bingo. How about you,
That's
Joanne?
Awesome. Honestly, I used to answer this question of like probably some type of performer, whether it was a musician or like an artist. But more and more, I feel like my answer kind of changes more to of like here it's like in a self-discovery or like maybe even an activist thing in terms of like I want to make a difference. Like of course performing can make a difference, but something a little bit more directly tied into learning. So I often think about Bill Gates, his foundation. And I remember watching his documentary of where he really just thinks about all the problems in the world, triages what's the most important and underlying thing that he feels like he can fix, and focus, and then gathers a bunch of smart people and reads a bunch of books to figure out the solution. And I think that would be quite interesting and very enriching to have all these like crazy talented people around you, but also you're learning a whole different field and also like potentially making this huge difference in the end too. So
yeah, and he does have the time and money.
Right. Exactly. And the skill. Yeah. But yeah, I highly recommend his documentary on Netflix. I think it's called Bill's Brain.
Go check it out.
Yeah,
very
it's
cool.
Very fascinating. But yeah, no further ado, yeah.
Fabulous. This is so interesting. Thanks for the random question. I really enjoyed fantasizing, traveling all over the world. Hopefully, still possible in the near future.
Exactly. You never know. You never know.
Yes. And with that, we will work on our goals for next week and reconvene in a week.